Okay, so we're continuing to talk about rotations. We learned the pattern for 90 and 270. So the first question, we're just going to test that to see if you know how to do it. Make sure it makes sense. So we're going to label our quadrants. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. So we are starting in quadrant 2. We are rotating 90 degrees clockwise. So we're going to end up in quadrant 1. And in quadrant 1, everything is positive. And we're rotating about the origin to get our new figure. And they want us to draw it. And then they want to know the coordinates. So we have to write the coordinates out because we're not going to use patty paper every time. So we have JKLM. So JKLM. It's in quadrant 2. That's a negative x and a positive y. So my points should all follow that pattern. So point J is at negative 4, 1. Point K is at negative 4, 4. Point L is at negative 2, 6. And M is at negative 1, 5. X's are negative, Y's are positive, follows the correct pattern. Now, after the rotation, we're going clockwise. We're in quadrant 1. Everything is positive. So, and they're not calling it JKLM prime. They're calling it W, X, Y, Z. I wish they would use primes, but they didn't. And just make sure that you're going in alphabetical order so that you have the corresponding points done correctly. So now, remember, for 90 degrees or 270 degrees, the first step is X and Y switch. Do not worry about any negatives yet, okay? We're going to pretend they're not there. So 4, 1 becomes 1, 4. 4, 4 is 4, 4. 2, 6 is 6, 2, and 1, 5 is 5, 1. Now, we're in quadrant 1, so everything is positive, so we're done. X and Y need to be positive. They are. So these are the new points, and now we're going to go ahead and graph it. So W is at 1, 4. X is at 4, 4. Y is at 6, 2, and Z is at 5, 1. W goes to X goes to Y goes to Z, and Z goes to W. So you can see that the shape turned and is now, like this point right here is now pointing up a little bit more because it turned clockwise. So this is basically what it looks like. Mine's a little off because I can't use a protractor, but I think you get the idea. So that was just a review. We did that yesterday, 90 degrees. X and Y switch, and the quadrant determines positive or negative. All right, moving on to something new. Number 2, we have a 180 degree rotation. We haven't dealt with that before. For 180 degrees, your shape is going to move 2 quadrants. So I can go this way, and I would end up in quadrant 4 because this would be moving 1 quadrant and this is moving 2. Or I could go this way, and I would still end up in quadrant 4 because this would be 1 and this would be 2. So for 180 degrees, you don't need to specify if it's clockwise or counterclockwise because you'll end up in the same spot no matter what. Now the pattern for 180, unfortunately, is different. It's easier, but it's a separate thing you have to memorize. For 180 degree rotations, the pattern is simply X and Y become their opposites. They do not switch places. they just become their opposites. So if they're positive, they turn negative. If they're negative, they turn positive. But again, you have to write out all of the ordered pairs for the pre-image. So we have A, B, C, D. We're in quadrant 2. We have a negative X and a positive Y. That's just to check yourself. Point A, negative 4, 3 follows the pattern. B, negative 2, 5. That follows the correct pattern. C, negative 1, 2. And D, negative 2, 1. So to rotate this 180 degrees, doesn't matter which direction, clockwise or counterclockwise, all we're going to do is change our points and make them their opposite. And it's going to be in quadrant 4. Quadrant 4 is a positive X and a negative Y. So let's see if that works out. We had negative 4, 3. That becomes positive 4, negative 3. Follows the pattern of a positive X and a negative Y. B, we had negative 2, 5. That's going to become positive 2, negative 5. C becomes positive 1, negative 2. And D becomes positive 2, negative 1. We're going to graph that. And it should be the upside down version of this. So 4, 1, 2, 3 is A prime. 2, negative 5 is B prime. 1, negative 2 is C prime. And 2, negative 1 is D prime. We connect in order, A to B, B to C, C to D, and then close it with D to A. So B was at the top, now B is at the bottom. Everything should be upside down. And it is. D was at the bottom, now D is at the top. So this shape has been flipped upside down. Turned upside down, and it's in quadrant 4. So that is how you do a 180 degree rotation. I'm going to pause here because this video is getting a little too long.